Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, host of the SOS Shout Out Show. Hope you're having a wonderful Monday. As you know, this is our segment normally of More Better Mondays, but we decided to shift. It's going to be a little bit more of a current affairs show today. Equally informative, we hope, but also kind of bringing light to some of the things that are happening that will be affecting our world in one way or another, directly or indirectly. So again, welcome to the show. While I'm the host, I'm not the captain of the ship. The captain of the ship are the people who come on the show. Those are the Shadow Show soldiers, the Shadow Show family. And what I mean by it is if you're coming on the show for the first time, don't feel like you need permission to express yourself. I tell people all the time, when you come on the show, don't be shy. You have an opinion. In this space, we make sure everybody's opinion is valued. Get in the comments section. At least introduce yourself. This is a show about community. It's also a show about information. So get in that comment section. Let us know how you feel. Introduce yourself. Let people introduce themselves to you. And that's what it is. And most importantly, you get your shout out. That's right. You get your shout out. So outside of that, if you're really coming on the show the first time, I'm going to ask for a little favor. Click the subscribe button, the link, or the notification button, or the like button, depending on how you're feeling, how you're rolling that day, this particular day. All right. So let me get into this because we have a pretty packed show today. Our subject is going to be the trial that's going on, the trial of Derek Chauvin in regards to the murder of George Floyd. I said the murder of George Floyd. If you're saying preach, you are innocent to proven guilty. In most cases, yes, but I saw in my own eyes that was a murder. But we're also going to talk about some of the minutiae, some of the things that we really need to be looking at, because this is a little bit deeper than just a murder trial of a policeman that killed a black man. This particular murder, this particular act, this criminal act, if you will, it shook up the world. This criminal act had international ramifications. It regarded people in a way where they had to look around in society. People had to actually own the fact that in some regards they had white privilege. Own the fact that there was a certain thing here, a system called fundamental injustice, and be able to, in some regards, turn around and speak about it plainly. Now, I'm not going to jump on the police, because I'm going to tell you something. A lot of police put their lives on the line. They do their job. They do it well. They're community folks. I grew up where we had community policemen. And the thing about community policemen is that they knew the community. So the idea sometimes when they talk to people or they interceded or intervene in a situation, the first option was not to take the people to jail. It was, let me take you to your mother's house. Let me take you to your grandmother's house. Let's have this conversation. Any idea of understanding that when you take people out of the community, it makes the community weaker. But if you leave people in the community who are empowering themselves, who are improving, it makes the community that much more viable. Now, in this case of George Floyd, I think it's important, brothers and sisters. I think it's very, very important that we revisit some things. It's been quite a number of years, or not a year, but it's been quite a fair amount of time since this thing happened. And it always takes a while for these cases to come to trial. You're going to notice some things. It's going to make you very, very irritable. The first one is Derek Chauvin. He admitted no culpability to the murder of this man. No sorry, no apologies, no nothing like that. He bailed out. Amazingly, he was able to bail out in a capital murder crime. To me, he was able to bail out. The other thing that you're going to understand as you watch this trial, as I watched the early parts of the trial, is how they're going to frame not Derek Chauvin, but how they're going to frame George Floyd, because that's the way it works in America. Before we get started, let me go to my shout out family. I'm sorry, family. I want to shout everybody out. Of course, we got Sister Riri. We hope you're feeling well today. I've been praying for you, and you haven't told me you're all right, but I'm hoping that you are on the road to recovery. We miss you. We're still looking to have that section, your food section, on the show. Yes, we are. But more importantly, it's really vital for us to make sure that you get your health together. Okay. Let me know what's going on. Text me. I'll text you back. If you need anything, you know how we do. It's a shout out show, family. You know how we do. All right. Glad you're on the show. In case you guys that's our craft services person. And I guess this is my manager right here. Everybody has a role. JT, Johnny L. Thomas is my manager. Brothers and sisters, He's been managing me for quite a number of years. A good brother. That, like I said, good brother, a great brother. Let me correct myself. A great brother who's been with me on this ride for a long time, from doing hole in the wall comedy clubs to All It Made Me Funny to the Shout Out Show. And it's just been a beautiful progression because we've all been able to grow skill wise, talent wise, content wise. And it's always a pleasure to have my brother on the show. Sometimes he has his mom on the show. Sometimes he has his wife on the show. And, you know, it's just a general sense of appreciation, just like everybody here. But for that brother, it's a little bit more because he's been with me a little bit more. Okay, brothers and sisters, big shout out to Johnny L. Thomas, better known as JT. Here's another shout out soldier, my main man, Altaf Rashid, all the way from Toronto, Canada. This man makes it despite time zones, despite Toronto traffic. He makes it despite he doesn't need a passport, brother and sisters. He's a bad man. He comes across no immigration, no passport to be with us on a shout out show. And he is deadly consistent, just like JT, just like Sister Ree. And you know what? I appreciate it because your consistency makes me consistent. And I appreciate that. Next up, Sister Ika, all the way from Indonesia, doing big things in Indonesia, baking those cakes, taking care of her babies, making sure that they have the best opportunity to be the best, to be the best selves they can be. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Sister Ika. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Right back at you. Oh, we have our official, unofficial research director in the building, Sister Robina Chaudhry. I know you. I just had a feeling you were going to come on this particular day for this particular trial. I knew it. When I was doing it, I was like, I can't even do Mo Better Mondays. It should be called Reliable Robina, Sister Robina, because I know you're going to be here. Now you're going to give us some insight and information and some facts. But we appreciate you. Thank you so much because we know it's late on the other side of the pond in the UK. All right. Are we through with everybody? Okay. Things require narrative. Oh, can I give a shout out? I got to take this out. This is my main man, Justin. Justin is a brother who's done incredible work. He just released a documentary. Gosh, he's a documentary from, what is the name of the documentary, Justin? I'm just drawing a blank here. The something. So, Tony, can you get the name of his documentary? Because I want everybody to see it. Justin, what's the name of that documentary? Well, anyway, the documentary is, but there you go. The Honest Struggle. Thank you, brother. The Honest Struggle is really something that's close to my heart. I really try to work with returning citizens in an informal way. A lot of my good friends were returning citizens, and I understand it's called The Honest Struggle. That's the name of the film, but that's what it is. The Honest Struggle, really capturing the essence of what it is to come out of prison and not so much try to readjust, but, realign. Also realign, trying to build relationships, trying to find out where you are in society. It's almost like when you're in a coma for 30 days, you come out, you go, where am I? That's 30 days. Some guys have been in a prison coma for over 30 years, and they come out and they try to adjust to the world. And I can't really fathom what that is, but I mean, it's difficult. Justin said you watch it on Amazon Prime. Check it out on Amazon Prime, everybody. Again, that's The Honest Struggle. Good to see you out. But just like The Honest Struggle, when you have a trial, brothers and sisters, it begins with a narrative. The narrative is innocence and guilt, but it also has to do with situation and culpability. So when we watch the George Floyd thing, we got a particular type of narrative. But that narrative is from our perspective, the TV narrative, where there's necessarily no filter. That filter that's missing on our side is the filter that this trial will be put through, and that's the law filter. People are going to say, what does the law say? I'm going to show you some things. Excuse me, everybody, allergies. Let me get some water. I'm going to show you some things about narrative. This is as a comedian and writer, Justin knows exactly what I'm going to do. I want everybody to pay attention to this. This is footage from CNN, a little bit more of the footage that they have, but I'm going to break it down and understand what we're going to talk about. A little bit is not just law, it's about critical race theory. So let me get to it.
Going down. I'm going down. I'm going down. I'm not going to run, man. Right. I know I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
You're talking and not oxygen. I can't breathe. You get in this car, we can talk.
I am claustrophobic. I'm
Walking with me.
God, I'm claustrophobic, man.
You ain't gonna read or whatever you read in the car.
Get me in the front, please.
No, you're not getting in the
I'm
front.
claustrophobic. So
Get in the car.
Okay, man. Okay. I'm not a bad guy, man.
Get in the car,
I'm not a bad guy.
You ain't gonna win.
Oh, my wrist, man. My wrist, man. Okay. I'm gonna lay on the ground. My wrist.
Bro, you can't win, man.
There's some water or something. Please. I'm about to just die this thing.
Relax.
Man, I can't breathe in my face. Just get up.
What do you want?
I can't breathe. Please, the knee in my neck. I can't breathe.
Bro, get up, get in the car, man.
I will.
Get up, get in the car.
I can't move.
I've been waiting the whole time, man. Get up, get in the car.
Mama.
Get up and get in the car right.
I can't.
You gave y'all the opportunity to get in, bro. I told you can't win.
My knee.
You can't win, man.
Check his pulse. Okay. Check his pulse, child. Child, check his pulse. Child, check his pulse, bro. Bro, check his pulse, bro. You bogus, bro.
Don't do
you
drugs,
bogus.
guys.
Don't do drugs, bro. What is that? What do you think that is? You call what he doing okay?
Get
What are you doing?
3 minutes, bro. He's not moving. He's dead, bro. He's dead,
Get
bro.
back on the street.
Don't touch me. You could at least lifted him up off the ground, bro. We wouldn't even trip, bro.
So you see the narrative. There's certain things that you always have to look at. Compliance. Was he compliant? I think he was more than compliant. Number one, he was telling him what the situation was. There's another video where he says, basically, don't shoot me. What you're looking at is a man who, I don't know all the background, but he's been traumatized. He's also been a person who's been shot. And you're also looking at mental distress. Let me say it again, mental distress. If anyone's been arrested or had been taken in by the police, you know, even just questioned by the police or even get pulled over by the police, or even when you hear a siren, you're conditioned because you're in a situation where you've dealt with trauma. It's not different for George Floyd. And what you're going to hear in the case is he did drugs. Methamphetamine, fentanyl, things like that. They're going to say it was in his system, it was in his blood, it was in the car. But what you're not going to hear, and this is a very big issue right now, what you're not going to hear, brothers and sisters, is the fact that the system, hear me now, the system is the thing that allowed them to do that. That's not arrogance. That's not ego. It's criminal, but it's self-assurance. It's confidence that the thin blue line is going to take care of me if I'm a police officer. So Derek Chauvin's case is a case study for police stations or police headquarters all over the world, all over the United States, because there's an unwritten rule. that policemen have a right to rewrite law under the auspice of the law. Meaning, brothers and sisters, meaning more so that they can put themselves in a situation, a scenario, and make this thing seem correct. I'm not saying Derek Chauvin is going to be found innocent, but I'm not saying he's going to be brought up on, he's going to be charged with second-degree murder. And here's the reason why. There are laws already pre-existing that make it extremely difficult to do that. The maneuvering of him being brought up on if you will, being brought up on second-degree murder charges, along with a plethora of other charges, is the fact that the prosecutors had to go back to the judge and make an appeal for it to be put on. Before it was third degree. Now it's second degree. The other thing also is that there are protections for police officers because police officers conceivably and conceptually do very, very dangerous work. But it's not just very, very dangerous work. It's dangerous work no one else wants to do. And so our boys in blue have to have a buffer, and they've always had a buffer. And that thing says interpret the law in the absence of us interpreting the law for you. The conversation that you didn't hear was a conversation with the prosecutor. We're bringing him in. We have somebody here. We're bringing him in. Do you really think someone called a prostitute or a prosecutor while that man was on the floor, on the ground, on the street, if you will, handcuffed? Hear me now, handcuffed. And this is not the part that's going to scare you. The part that's going to scare you is those laws are still on the books now. If you look at quote unquote police brutality cases or cases of young men being killed after George Floyd, I believe you may find that there's an increase. Along with the increase is more footage of it happening. And there's a balance that happens whereby we become numb to this process. So when you watch a George Floyd, you go, hey, I remember that happened. And you're absent the outrage. You're absent the disgust that when it originally happened because it's just so much of it happening. And the thing that's going to go along with this is this right here. Hold on a minute, Sister Robina. The thing that's going to go along with this, brothers and sisters, is that they're going to create more laws to protect police. Remember those empty calls for defund the police department? Remember what I said about defunding the police department? I said rewrite the damn Constitution. Police law is tied into, just like the military, police law is tied into constitutional law. And you know who doesn't write constitutional law? The people who wind up being killed by the police. We have a lot of challenges. We have a lot of victories. But what we haven't had is access and opportunity to begin to look and rewrite laws that are on the books that will allow for George Floyd to be killed in broad daylight, or Ahmaud Arbery to be shot in broad daylight, or Sandra Bland to be snatched out of a car by policemen for literally no charge. And these things continue to happen because the law's on the books. Let's bring up some comments. All right, these people needed to attack and beat those officers, knock the hell out of them. The complicity of people to police authority is not acceptable. Officer Chauvin is going to set a precedent for police brutality cases. Chauvin would claim he was on medication for mental health issues, i.e. anxiety, stress. That's a good, I believe you're onto something there because, and here's the reason why. The same strategy was used with Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. It will be a question of all of the officer presence, and they're going to go, did you feel, hear me now, did you feel threatened? Did you feel your safety in some regards was compromised? And they're going to show that video of those people. They may going to say, we thought it was a riot. They're going to show a picture of George Floyd in the worst light. They're going to give you everything about his prior cases, his prior arrests, his prior incarceration. They're going to give you all of those things as a counterbalance to the fact that he was killed in broad daylight with a man who kept his knee on his neck for over 9 minutes. And, brothers and sisters, it will serve as a reminder, a very deep, profound reminder, that the law is not in your hands, that the law doesn't necessarily work for you. What happened in that area in Minneapolis happened around people of color, people who were struggling, people who had issues. And then you had, people who just there doing business. But it didn't happen in the suburbs. You know why? Because George Floyd wouldn't have been in the suburbs. Hear me now. He wouldn't have been in the suburbs. This is an urban problem. This is not just an urban problem, but it's inexplicable, absolutely inexplicable, that this thing happens while police stand by and watch. Why? Why, you ask? Because the police were scared of the police. The police were intimidated by the police. The biggest thing that can happen, or the scariest thing that happens when you're a cop, is that you go against the pre-existing rules for cops. If you ever watched American Gangster, the cop who went after Frank Lucas, he had to leave his bureau. You know why? Because there was a case of some money, and his partner wanted to take the money, and he turned the money in. And his friend said, "You put me in a bad spot because people think that we're snitches." Meaning that people can't do the corruption around them with impunity. Somebody's going to say something. And you literally have a case now that stinks to high heaven. But the law is going to tell you it doesn't smell like crap. It smells like potpourri. That is not ugly, but it's beautiful. That is not illegal, but it's just, and not just, but it's necessary. There's a whole audience out there for this trial. Just like there's an audience for the young man that killed those people up in Kenosha. Just like there's an audience for the people who shot Jeff Blake in the back. There's an audience for folks who are holding on to this image, because this image represents power. You see, the last trial that we had, and it's going to be interesting, but the last trial we had was, of course, the 2020 election. Because people leaned on laws rather than fairness. People leaned on laws as opposed to equality. People leaned on laws as opposed to rights. And this will be a mandate, and that's just not just on police enforcement, police brutality. This will be a mandate on, will the old laws stick? I don't know how many of you know Keith Ellison. I know Keith Ellison. He's a good dude. I knew Keith when he was a congressman, and I know Keith. He's an attorney general. I saw him maybe a couple of years ago on January. The conversation I had with Keith was, how do you win when all the laws are set up for you to lose? I said, how do you win? You're attorney general, but can you rewrite laws? You can't even rewrite laws. You have to go to other politicians to rewrite laws that don't work anymore. I put before you, they haven't done that in Minneapolis. They have not done that in Minneapolis. And to pull one strand, or loose string from a sweater is going to make the whole sweater fall apart. And there's going to be a clinging, if you will, a clinging to the idea that Derek Chauvin had the right to do what he was supposed to do. I had a dream basically once that they didn't prosecute him. They made him go to anger management. Okay, well, you can plead guilty. You just can't be on the police force anymore. And here's the deal. If he's found guilty, he won't be on the police force. He's not on the police force now. But if he's found guilty, what does it matter? He's not a part of the system now. You get what I'm saying? He's not a part of the system now. He can't be held accountable because he's no longer a cop. The police have pushed him out as a civilian, and that's how he's going to be judged. The system that allowed him to do this, as well as other policemen, that allowed them to break laws, that allowed them to infringe on people's rights, that system is still in place. And while we will boohoo and all of that, Chauvin, to me, he's done. They'll find him guilty and he'll do some time. But that system is still going to be in place. Yes, Sister Robina, I would not be surprised if George Floyd's murder was an initiation ceremony to prove allegiance to a secret white supremacy gang within the police force. You know, that's actually not conspiracy theory. There has been documentation of white supremacist groups within the police force. I have to find the article, but I remember reading about it. They were busted because all of them had the same tattoos. And someone ratted them out that this tattoo was about, you know, and you begin to think about that. It's not a conspiracy theory. Because you can think about the recent insurrection that happened at the Capitol. Why would guys get off, brothers and sisters? Because there are laws and there are lawyers who are going to find those loopholes. And they're not even going to find the loopholes. Let me back up off of that. They're not going to find the loopholes. They're going to find the law. And they're going to find the law. It might be from 1960. It might be from 1970. It might be from 1870. The fact that it remains on the books allows them to use it, unless there's something to make the counterpoint. You know, justice is a funny thing. And I'm going to tell you why justice is a funny thing. If you're Black, or you're Latino, or you're Muslim, or you're Jewish, or you're Native American, or you're Latino, white America does not like to apologize to you. White America does not have an instrument that prods them to apologize. Thus, you have every other week, it seems like, a Black man or Latino or inmate coming out of prison who did 25, 30, 40 years for a crime he didn't commit. And he comes out of jail and nobody apologizes to him. He's just happy to be out of jail. And I get it. But nobody apologizes for the system. Nobody says that this prosecutor was corrupt. Nobody said that this cop was corrupt. Nobody said that it withheld information. What do you think is going on right now? Do you really, really think all the information on George Floyd is going to come out? That the police were on the scene who collected data and took statements, all that money was turned over to, all that was not money, but all that information was turned over to prosecution? It was not. And if it was, it's foolish. And you have prosecutors in the state of Minnesota who will go home tonight and they will look at the system and they will scratch their head going, this is tough. You know why? Because the law is still a law. If you still have laws on the books that bar a Black man and a white woman from being married and living in a particular part of the United States, you still have those laws. And while somebody go, that's disgusting, that's abhorrent, still a law. Somebody can say uphold the law, and they'll have to uphold the law. In states like Texas, they have zero tolerance. If you get called out on a domestic charge, doesn't matter who's guilty, who's not guilty. You know what? It was just an argument, disagreement, neighbor call, whatever. Zero tolerance. What do the police say? Somebody's going to jail. And there you have your new relationship with the criminal justice system. You know, I mourn George Floyd. And here's why I mourn George Floyd. He was compliant. You could say he was on fentanyl or meth, but he was compliant. And he was clear-minded about his situation. He was clear-minded about his situation. He told them, listen, I'm claustrophobic. Listen, while he was handcuffed, he said, I can't breathe. Listen. When they haven't shown the video, I hope they show it soon, where he literally says, don't shoot me. Why? Because he's been shot. This man is not trying to do anything to draw the ire of these policemen. Outside of the fact that he was scared to death because he was in the custody of policemen who literally couldn't tell him exactly what the problem was. Do you think this man should have wound up dead over Counterfeit bill? Of course not. Of course not. If there was a community policing, somebody would have gone into that store and said, this is the guy that took the bill. And they would say, yeah, and they have a conversation. They might take you downtown. They may say, listen, give the man his money back. Maybe they'll do that. Maybe you could work. It could have been worked out. But the thing that George Floyd didn't count on, and the things that we have to be really, really clear about, is that system still remains. That system still remains. You know, we have things on the books like the Patriot Act. Do you know how many Black people, minorities, have gone to jail for the Patriot Act, brothers and sisters? The Patriot Act. It's a thing that's called a sneak and peek rule, which means I can come to your residence, look around for whatever I'm looking around. I can look around and then I can leave. And under the sneak and peek rule, I only have to tell you that I did it after a reasonable amount of time. What's a reasonable amount of time? What could you be doing in my residence without my presence being there? Guys talk about drugs were found on my premises. Why? Because a guy was allowed to go in and God knows what he did, put drugs in, and then go to the judge and go, I need a warrant to search for the drugs. That's the issue with these laws. And none of us should be, I want to say, ignorant of the law, because the law will work against you just like that. You watch the Karens. What are the Karens doing? They're utilizing the law, but it's the unwritten law. Woo, the unwritten law. A Karen calls and I don't want it. She goes, a Black man. Says unwritten law. Then the police come and all that type of stuff. It's code words. You see, Chauvin, this is Derek Chauvin, his report. I wish we could see his police report, but they haven't shown us. I really want to see how he wrote this thing up. You know, his narrative for this thing, along with the other 4 cops, because I'm going to tell you what happened. They all had to get together and put a story together. Because if one goes down, all of them go down. And the other thing is, we're not hearing about the other people on trial. That's right. The term conspiracy theory was created by the CIA in the 1960s. Yeah, but it's been lived out by Black folk. L.A. Hardy, what's going on, beloved? L.A. Hardy, brothers and sisters, one of the funniest guys in the business and one of the realest dudes in the business. I know him, L.A., for a long time, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show, L.A. We're just trying to bring little what's the word? Some sober language to what we're watching on TV. Because another thing, don't watch too much TV, brothers and sisters, about this case, because it's meant to intoxicate you. It's meant to get you all mixed up. So everyone in this case will be covering their backs, even if they end up using Jim Crow laws to protect them. Until lawmaking is taken out of the hands of politicians and placed into the hands of the courts, nothing will change. Yeah. I always say the the difference between doing 1 day in jail and doing 100 years in jail is the law they're going to use against you. So listen, everybody, that's the show for today. I'm sorry I ran over a little bit, but I thought it was important. I hope we have some discussion, and we'll be picking it up. We'll probably be doing this next week around this time. We'll just be doing a roundup because I think it's important for all of us to stay informed. God bless everybody, man. You know, this is a tough one. Peace and blessings go out to the Floyd family, the family of the attorneys. You know, people are going to say, what's the big deal? He got a $27 million settlement from city of Minneapolis and money from, GoFundMe, but it doesn't bring back George Floyd. Doesn't bring back a brother, doesn't bring back a father, doesn't bring back George Floyd. Just like yesterday, I tried to be fair. I talked about these 2 young girls yesterday in DC. I was hard on them. 13 and 15 years old, trying to steal an Uber, and they killed a man. And they're going to be they're facing felony law. They're felony murder. They're facing felony murder. I did not argue the law that they were facing felony murder. I argued against their behavior. I made a case-by-case assessment of why this was wrong. I didn't even bring the law into it. Why it was wrong? Can we even get back to just things being wrong as opposed to legally wrong or legally correct? Because legally is scary, brothers and sisters. Legally, when you put that in front of me, legally, you need to get out of my face. So listen, I'm about to bounce. You guys have been great. Altaf, thank you, man. Appreciate you. Much love. And let me say, everybody, please pray for me for my thesis defense tomorrow. We might even show you guys some episodes, some scenes from it while I'm doing it. Unfortunately, I won't be able to do the shout out show tomorrow because I will be defending my thesis. Alhamdulillah. And if it goes well, in April, beginning of May, we'll have a graduation show. And if Allah means for it to happen, I will be receiving my master's in Islamic education. And I'm seriously thinking about going back and teaching. So you guys have been familiar. You've been great. You've been supportive. I got to bounce. Let me shout out my sponsors before we go. Let's shout out BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. If you don't want to go to the website, which is BeFinanciallyIndependent.com, you can pick up the phone and call. Go old school, 1-800-679-3175. Again, that's 1-800-679-3175. You guys have been terrific. I appreciate you. And let's make sure we put our prayers together for all the people that are involved in this trial. And hopefully, we get a fair outcome, a fair and just outcome. I don't want anything extra. I just want fairness. I just want to see, in this case, that the law works. Because as much as Derek Chauvin is on trial, America's on trial. Thanks again. I'm Preacher Moss. This is a shout out show. God bless you. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hey, everybody, this is your brother, Preacher Moss. Listen, I hope that you enjoyed your shout-out show experience. We'll be back with the next show, the next shout-out show. A simple ask before you go, please help your brother out. Click that subscribe button, click that notify button, and I'll see you again on this side of the microphone. You probably wonder what that smell is. That's me. I smell good. And the reason I smell good is because I use oils from Tar. So I'm not saying you can't smell good. I'm not even saying you stink. I'm saying you have the opportunity to smell exquisite. Check out tarifatar.com for some of the best oils and scents in town.